The traffic jam on the way home for Lunar New Year was so unbearable that I just set up a Mahjong table right there on the highway. So many people were stuck in the same situation, and my makeshift Mahjong game quickly became a huge hit. I was winning so much, my pockets couldn't hold any more money. Lily, who was driving her Porsche, glared at me, her face full of indignation. "If I lose this round, I'm going to flip," she muttered. "I'll give you my brother." But I won again. She had to rush back to her car and call her brother, apologizing profusely. "I bet you away and lost," she wailed. "Now I have to move out." The guy in the car heard this and burst out laughing. "Lily," he called out, "you're such a jinx, you never win anything and you dared to bet me." Lily didn't seem to feel any remorse. "Are you even worth as much as my bank balance?" she retorted. "Anyway, Mom and Dad are going to have a talk with you when we get home, whether you're here or not." I sat at my makeshift mahjong table, feeling a little flustered watching the two siblings argue so fiercely. About that," I started. Lily immediately cut me off. "Don't worry, he'll go home with you." My mouth twitched. "No, that's not what I mean. How about you just pay me?" What would I even do with a man? Of course, I didn't say that last part out loud, but Lily easily understood my unspoken thought. She turned back to the car with a look of utter disgust. "Hear that?" she scoffed. "She doesn't even want you. I guess it's true, with that appearance, what else can you do besides eat an extra bowl of someone else's rice?" The guy in the car finally lost his patience. He opened the door and stepped out. A perfectly sculpted body, an impeccable figure, a face without a single flaw. I was instantly speechless. "Oops, sorry, I spoke too soon." Lily, seeing the person who had just stepped out, immediately changed her expression. "Chris, what are you doing with those tacky sunglasses? Are you trying to look like a hobo?" Despite the mockery, he reluctantly took off his glasses and looked straight at me. "You actually won?" he asked. When our eyes met, my heart rebelliously skipped a beat. Just one beat, that was it. He smirked, then strode over and sat down in Lily's spot. "How about this?" he proposed. "I'll play one round with you. If I win this bet, it's like nothing happened. If I lose, I'll bet myself to you." He seemed incredibly confident. I gave a small smile. "All right." Whether it was due to the high stakes or his captivating face, our spot instantly attracted a crowd of onlookers. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I drew a tile. Seeing the hand I had, I couldn't help but let a small smile play on my lips. "All one suit, self-drawn?" Chris's face paled slightly. I gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, crossed my arms, and said with a hint of schadenfreude, "Sorry, but it looks like you really have to come home with me this time." Lily, standing beside me, was practically on the verge of collapsing from laughter. "I told you, brother. You should have just gone with her earlier, shouldn't you have? Now look, you've lost face in front of so many people." It was confirmed, those two were definitely siblings. Chris just froze for a few seconds, then immediately accepted the outcome. He stood up, looked at me, and said in a nonchalant tone, "All right, I'll go with you." I thought he was joking, but then he put his suitcase in my car, and I realized he was serious. Just as I was about to stop him, the road ahead suddenly cleared. Everyone around us scattered like a disturbed beehive. Lily didn't even bother to look back, she just sped off. I sat in the driver's seat, looking at the man in the passenger seat, feeling a headache coming on. This was too much. I'd really played a dangerous game. Once in the car, I cut straight to the chase. "Where do you live? I'll drop you off first." Chris turned to look at me, raising an eyebrow. "You don't want me anymore?" He said it as if I was some kind of heartbreaker. "Wasn't it just a joke?" I protested. "I don't joke," he said with a smirk. "I have excellent gambling ethics. I always play fair with bets. If I said I bet myself to you, then I'm voluntarily selling myself to you." This was the first time I'd met someone like this. I shot him a glance about to speak when my phone rang. The car screen flashed, "Mom calling," and I unconsciously tensed up. As soon as I answered, Mom's voice immediately boomed through the car. "How many people are coming home this year?" I blurted out. "2." The words were out before I could stop them, and I instantly realized my mistake. Mom's voice suddenly went up 8 octaves. "2 people? No, I mean," I stammered, trying to explain that it was just a slip of the tongue. But right then, the person beside me let out 2 gentle coughs. Mom immediately became agitated, unable to stop. "Are there really 2 of you? And he's sitting right next to you?" Seeing things spiraling in a horribly wrong direction, I glared at the main culprit, but Chris acted as if nothing was amiss, nonchalantly striking up a conversation with Mom. "Hello, Auntie, I'm Chris. It's a bit rude of me to come without notice, but Kai hasn't told you too about our relationship yet. I thought she wasn't serious about me, so I begged her to bring me home." The more he spoke, the more aggrieved his voice became, as if he was on the verge of tears. I froze in my seat. No way did I just stumble upon a male green tea schemer. Mom heard this and immediately spun the car 180 degrees. How could she do that? Don't worry, son, I'll stand up for you when we get home. Thank you, Auntie. Thank you, Auntie. Just like that, they were chatting away happily, completely leaving me out of the conversation. As soon as Mom hung up, a text message popped up on my phone. Don't be a heartbreaker. Don't play with people's feelings. Seeing this message, I burst out laughing in frustration. If I wasn't driving on the highway, I would have truly kicked Chris out of the car. I gritted my teeth, gripping the steering wheel. Another message popped up, this time from Lily, who I had just befriended. Forgot to tell you, my brother is a great actor. Seen it, not just great, but super great? Chris clearly saw the message too. He picked up his phone and with a knowing tone, sent back a voice message. Sister, stop ruining my relationship with my girlfriend. Girlfriend? Since when? I immediately denied it loudly. Lily replied instantly. No way, I've only been gone for less than an hour and you two are already a couple. Good going, little brother, just bring Kai Kai home. I have to show her off to my Mahjong friends. Make sure you hold on to her tightly, or who will I play Mahjong with later? My head was spinning. Chris, can you explain this to me? He nodded. Sorry, I was just messing around a bit. Lily went ballistic. Are you sick? I knew it. Who would ever want you? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Chris, if you're so good, don't ever show your face here again. She sent a series of furious voice messages, all scolding Chris. He listened, not getting angry at all, but instead chuckling gleefully. After she finished her rant, he casually sent back a message, then turned to tell me an address. I was bewildered. That's my address, didn't you want to take me home? Seeing Chris suddenly drop the teasing, I felt something was off. At the same time, Mom kept sending messages to Chris. What does he like to eat? How many days is he staying? What's his favorite color? Dad and I are clearing out the living room for him. Does he like dogs, or should he bring Lantern over to my place for 2 days? Seeing this string of messages, I understood one thing clearly. I might not be able to go home without Chris. Otherwise, the label of heartbreaker who toys with people's feelings would be impossible to shake off. Chris sat beside me, fiddling with his phone, looking as if it had nothing to do with him if not for that smug smile. This cunning man was indeed a master strategist. I gritted my teeth, hesitated for a long time, then spoke up. Chris, can you help me deal with my parents? Me. He pretended to be clueless, looking at me. It's not impossible, but in what capacity? It was clear he was going to get his revenge. I suppressed the urge to punch him and reluctantly spat out 3 words. My boyfriend. But you just denied it earlier, didn't you? Now I'm admitting it. All right then. I was still surprised that he agreed so easily when he reopened the chat with Lily. I tricked you earlier, sister. Kai Kai really is my girlfriend. Lily immediately replied, Get out, you think I'd believe that? Chris looked at me innocently. She doesn't believe it. The road was jammed again. Looking at Chris's innocent face, I could only swallow my frustration. I grabbed his phone and with a heavy heart admitted, Sister, Chris is right, I really am his girlfriend. After saying that, I handed his phone back. As soon as he took it, messages flooded in. Kai Kai, did Chris kidnap you? No way, are you really with him? Oh my goodness, he's finally done something impressive in his life. Despite the slightly mocking tone, Chris seemed quite pleased. I look forward to your guidance, my girlfriend. I frowned, annoyed, and replied, Go away. He didn't argue, just chuckled. Before we even arrived home, I saw Mom and Dad waiting downstairs. From afar, they spotted my car and waved enthusiastically. Chris looked at them, then turned to me. My parents look quite cute too. I rolled my eyes. Those are my asterisk parents, they have nothing to do with you. He shrugged, not arguing. As soon as we stepped out of the car, Mom ran over. When she clearly saw Chris's face, she immediately winked at me meaningfully. I'd forgotten one thing. Mom was a total sucker for good looks. She pulled Chris aside and chatted excitedly, completely abandoning me and Dad. Dad moved closer to me, looking visibly annoyed. Where did you find such a handsome young man? Your mom sees him and forgets she even has a husband. No one came to my defense. As soon as I pushed open the front door, I froze. Was this even my house anymore? The glass doors were so clean they reflected everything. Even Lantern's cage had been washed and given a brand new cover. I had never received such a grand welcome. Mom pulled Chris around for a tour of the house. He was incredibly well behaved. Tusk, if this is acting, he must be a Hollywood actor. Ignoring them, I threw down my luggage and ran to hug Lantern. Lantern, do you miss Mommy? I was expressing my maternal love to Lantern when, without me noticing, Chris came over. glanced at the dog, and after a few seconds of silent eye contact, he held out his hand to Lantern. "Hello, son, I'm your dad." Lantern barked a few times. I didn't understand what he said, but it definitely wasn't polite. Kai, give Lantern to Chris so they can bond a little. Right, two dogs probably have a lot in common. I handed Lantern to Chris. Lantern bared his teeth, claws scratching wildly at Chris. He frowned, glaring at the dog. Lantern immediately settled down. Why did I raise a dog that only bullies the weak? I glared at Lantern, utterly disappointed. Chris, holding Lantern, caught my expression and immediately understood. A smirk played on his lips. "Like owner, like dog," he muttered. "A dog's mouth can't grow elephant tusks." I glared at him, utterly indignant. He was even more of a dog than Lantern. Chris walked closer, one arm holding Lantern, the other stroking the dog's head. He leaned close to me, his voice just loud enough for the two of us to hear. "I mean, Lantern is adorable just like his owner." My rationality told me his mouth never spoke the truth, but my wildly beating heart declared that rationality had collapsed. Lantern was squished between us, his eyes darting back and forth. Chris saw my ears flush slightly, then lowered his head and whispered into Lantern's ear, "Your mommy's embarrassed." Just before dinner, Mom looked at me with an expression that said she wanted to speak but held back. I was bewildered until I saw a Brain Platinum commercial on TV and finally understood what she was thinking. First time meeting us for the new year, and he came empty-handed. No matter how handsome Chris is, that won't save him. I instantly felt a surge of smug satisfaction, finally having something to gloat about. I raised an eyebrow at him. Chris caught my gaze, then suddenly stood up and placed Lantern in my arms. Before I could react, he opened his luggage. Inside were gifts of all sizes, immediately attracting the attention of the whole family. He handed a bottle of Maotai and premium tea to my dad. Then he took out bird's nest and a necklace, giving them to my mom. "Uncle, Auntie, it's my first time visiting. This is just a small token of my appreciation." I looked at the gifts, their packaging already screaming, expensive, and was completely dumbfounded. Mom, clutching the emerald necklace, smiled so wide it almost split her face, praising Chris nonstop. Seeing things spiraling further and further from my expectations, I pulled Chris aside. "Where did you get all this stuff? You prepared these for your own parents, didn't you? What if your uncle scolds you for giving them to my parents?" I feigned concern, but in reality, I just wished he'd take them all back. Chris saw right through me but didn't expose me, his tone nonchalant. "It's fine. My parents will be delighted if they know I brought these to honor my in-laws." Did he need to be so deep in character? I quickly reminded him, "We're just pretending." "Oh, really? Then I'll go tell them." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned to walk away. I panicked, quickly pulling him back. He crossed his arms, looking at me smugly, waiting. Even if it's fake, I'm still the perfect son-in-law. The damn thing about men is their competitive spirit. Seeing that my mom was completely won over, I quietly snuck up to Dad. "Dad, don't you find him a bit annoying?" Dad, clutching the Maotai and premium tea, didn't even glance at me. "I actually really don't like him," he said, "but the Maotai and delicious tea have perfectly compensated for that." I was speechless, not knowing what to say. Still trying to cling to hope, Dad pulled out his phone and called his chess friends. "Hello, old man Wang. How did you know my son-in-law gave me Maotai?" "That's right, my son-in-law. After he gets married, I'll invite you to celebrate with the same Maotai I received today." A bragging father, a delighted mother, and me, utterly heartbroken. It was hopeless, truly hopeless. I finally understood where my love for money came from. It was hereditary. After dinner, seeing that it was still early, Dad suggested playing Mahjong. I immediately agreed. Chris hesitated for a second, then also nodded. He was still too naive, not understanding the cruelty of this society. A few rounds passed, and Chris was utterly defeated. I watched him go from confident to completely dazed, as if he'd lost his soul. My mood was excellent. I pushed out my tiles. 13 orphans, another win? Mom next to me was furiously winking at me. I pretended not to see, happily looking at Chris. Just as he was about to transfer money to me, Mom stopped him. "Chris, don't go easy on Kai." Hearing that, I immediately bristled. She could doubt anything, but not my Mahjong skills. "Mom, you're wrong. He's not going easy at all. He's just naturally bad." Mom looked at me with disappointment. "But he can't lose every single game, can he?" I blurted out. "Why not? Mom, do you know he came home with me because I beat him in Mahjong?" As I said this, I suddenly realized I'd spoken too much. Mom immediately looked suspicious. Why? If she knew Chris and I had only met a few hours ago, and that I'd won him in a card game, I might never be allowed to touch a Mahjong table again for the rest of my life. I desperately tried to think of a plausible reason but couldn't find one. I had to appeal to Chris with my eyes. He caught my signal and calmly began to speak. It's nothing, Auntie. It's just that while playing Mahjong, I overheard Kai Kai's friend say that you two didn't like me. She wanted to cheer me up, so she brought me home. The more he spoke, the sadder his voice became, and he bowed his head as if still deeply troubled. Mom couldn't stand it. What nonsense. Of course, we like you very much. Has Kai Kai never told us about you? How could we say we don't like you? Hearing this, Chris gave a slight, self-deprecating smile, his eyes filled with hidden meaning. So, she hasn't even mentioned me, huh? Mom panicked. She has. It's just that I didn't pay close enough attention. Even Mom, a seasoned woman, was led by the nose by Chris. He was clearly no ordinary opponent. After watching this excellent performance, I leaned over to Dad and whispered, Dad, actually, he not only brought you Huangshan Maofeng tea, but also Westlake Longjing. Dad, who had been almost invisible until then, immediately brightened. Where's the Westlake Longjing? I gestured towards Chris, who was still deep in his act. Right here, can't you smell the rich fragrance of the tea? Chris, catching my sly gaze, immediately feigned hurt and turned to Mom for help. Mom saw this and instantly turned to scold me. What are you talking about? If Chris hadn't come, I wouldn't even know you had a boyfriend. As if I knew myself. Mom lectured me for half an hour, finally giving me profound advice. Kai, you must treat Chris well. Otherwise, if he gets heartbroken, you'll regret it when it's too late. Seeing her so serious, I could only feel helpless. Mom, can you please stop watching those short CEO dramas? They're always talking about snatching hearts and kidneys. Are you and I even related? Mom glared at me. Even if you don't snatch his heart, don't hurt him. Hurt Chris? I think he was too busy feeling smug to be hurt. Mom and Dad arranged for Chris's room to be directly opposite mine. Because the bathroom outside was broken, he had no choice but to use the one in my room. Hearing the sound of water running inside, the more I thought about it, the more I realized I had brought trouble upon myself. In the past, I really shouldn't have been blinded by his looks and let him into my car. Now look, I was inviting both physical and mental torture. When Chris finished showering and stepped out, I was sitting on my bed, staring at my phone to calm my mind. I held out for a dozen seconds, but finally I secretly glanced at him. A simple t-shirt hugged his perfect figure, and I suddenly found it hard to breathe. I quickly opened a video to hide my reaction. Unexpectedly, the video started playing, and a guy with a suggestive voice was calling, "Sister," repeatedly. Inappropriate sounds echoed throughout the room. My face flushed and I frantically closed the video. Chris chuckled softly. "Do you know what you look like?" he asked. "Like a persimmon in September." I looked at him, confused, but my gaze unconsciously lingered on his collarbone. He smiled even deeper, moving closer. Our eyes met, a mix of gold and a bitter taste. I froze for a few seconds, then suddenly understood the hidden meaning. Caught red-handed, I decided not to hide anymore. "What are you doing? I wasn't looking at you." "Then can you take your eyes off my abs first?" "That's enough. He thinks I don't want to. It's just that my eyes have an automatic tracking function." Annoyed, I jumped off the bed and pulled him towards the door. As soon as I opened it, Mom's hushed voice drifted in. "Don't you think this boy, Chris, is a bit foolish?" "What?" "Treating him like a biological son during the day, then whispering behind his back at night. Did Mom have two faces?" Chris stood beside me, not reacting much, as if he wasn't the one being talked about. Dad expressed his disagreement. "Foolish? If he were foolish, he wouldn't have known to bring me Mao Tai and good tea." Dad officially achieved the milestone of mentioning Mao Tai and tea 30 times in one day. "I'm not talking about that. I mean, Kai doesn't seem to care much about him, and her excuses are so clumsy, yet he believes them blindly. Isn't that a bit foolish?" "Oh, so they were talking about *me*. You don't understand," Mom replied. "Young people call this love-struck brain nowadays. They even say a love-struck brain is a man's best wedding gift." "Oh, really? Then Chris's wedding gift is too generous." Mom sighed, then worried. "I just hope Kai doesn't end up chasing him down like a wife chasing cremation ground later." I said nothing, just utterly speechless. The first thing these two needed to do was delete all their short video apps. Chris leaned against the doorframe, trying to suppress his laughter so hard his whole body shook. "Enough with the laughing." He leaned close to me, his voice lazily rising. "A wife-chasing cremation ground, you say? Sounds rather exciting. With the spirit of act first, talk later." As soon as he finished speaking, I pushed him straight out and slammed the door shut. Early the next morning, as soon as I opened my eyes, I heard a commotion outside my door. I squinted and stepped out. The moment I saw the scene before me, all sleepiness vanished. Someone please tell me when my entire extended family appeared. I stood frozen while everyone else acted as if I wasn't there. Dad was showing off his Maudai to my uncle. Mom and my aunts were discussing the necklace. As for Chris, he was surrounded by the whole group, smiling radiantly, bathed in spring sunshine. He wore a sweater and glasses, his style perfectly fitting the ideal son-in-law image in my parents' eyes. I couldn't believe it. I took a photo with my phone and sent it to Lily. She simply replied with 2 words. "Who is this? My brother? Kai, you're truly skilled. You managed to transform a delinquent into a successful government official." It wasn't me who trained him, he just went crazy on his own. I put my phone down and looked up, meeting Chris's gaze. His eyes were strangely gentle. Everyone, noticing where he was looking, finally noticed me. Kai, you're awake. Why didn't you tell us you were dating anyone?" "That's right, Kai. Our Kai, when she's quiet, but when she makes a move, it's earth-shattering." "Definitely. Just look at Chris, you can tell how well he treats Kai." They chatted excitedly, not giving me a single chance to interject. Finally, my cousin came to my rescue, pulling me into my room. As soon as the door closed, she looked at me with an interrogative gaze. "Spill it." I knew I couldn't hide it, so I obediently recounted the entire process. After listening, my cousin exclaimed in amazement, "What kind of crazy luck is this? You just played Mahjong and picked up a handsome guy?" Then her tone changed to serious. "But aren't you afraid he's a scammer?" I sat on the bed, expressionless. "Sister, you're overthinking." His sister drives a Range Rover, carries an LV bag, and wears a Rolex watch. He wears Gucci glasses, and his gifts are Maudai and premium jade. What exactly is he going to scam me out of? My poverty? My cousin was speechless. "Stop talking. My friend would be heartbroken to hear this." I continued to complain to my cousin about Chris's antics over the past few days. "Tell me, sister, isn't his acting just too good?" I chattered on, not noticing the strange glint in my cousin's eyes. Kai, what if he's not acting?" I stiffened. My cousin stated bluntly, "His actions we usually call sincere expression of feelings." "What are you talking about? What feelings could there be between him and me?" I immediately denied it. My cousin was helpless against my slow understanding. After an endless argument, I stepped out and heard the whole group discussing my romantic history. Chris, our Kai, has never really dated anyone before. Her only romance was in college, writing letters to a pen pal every day. How could they talk about such embarrassing things? I immediately rushed over and sat next to Chris, trying to draw everyone's attention. He glanced at me, a subtle curve on his lips. A pen pal? What was I thinking back then, getting all artistic and writing letters to a stranger every day? Now everyone knows. I never knew Kai used to have such an artistic streak. I felt like he was mocking me, but his eyes didn't seem to be. It was as if he was subtly implying something else. My aunts and uncles, afraid we might argue because of this, quickly changed the subject, but the conversation only veered further off course. "Chris, when are you two planning to get married?" Chris fabricated a story without batting an eye. Kai said she wants to focus on her career first, so she's not in a hurry. I listened to her completely, but we should at least get engaged first, right? Engaged, that's fine. Fine, what? While everyone was distracted, I quickly texted him, "Take it easy, don't act too real." Chris picked up his phone and calmly replied, "Didn't you ask me to help deal with Auntie and Uncle? I asked you to deal with them, not to put on a show. Don't worry, I know my limits." My cousin peeked at my phone screen and shook her head. Kai, you can't beat him. Just surrender gracefully." In just half a day, Chris had become the perfect son-in-law candidate in the eyes of all my aunts and uncles. When they praised him, they also praised me for having good judgment. Although he had not a single flaw, Mom still keenly noticed something. Kai, why do I feel like you and Chris aren't very intimate? You don't look like a couple in love." "Don't feel any more, Mom. The more you feel, the more panicked I get." "Why not?" my mom insisted. "We're just a little shy, that's all." "Really?" Mom clearly didn't believe me. I panicked and immediately grabbed Chris's hand, hooking it onto his arm and leaning against him. "Mom, in front of adults, of course we have to be a little restrained." Mom narrowed her eyes like a hawk, staring at me as if trying to see into my soul. Just as I was about to crack, Chris wrapped an arm around my shoulder. "Auntie, it's my fault. Normally, I'm too clingy to Kai, but she told me we should be more reserved when we're at home." After saying that, he gently pulled me closer, his tone incredibly serious. I looked up and met his gaze, and I was momentarily stunned by his smile. Seeing this, Mom relaxed a little. "All right then, why don't you two take Lantern for a walk outside? Spend some time cultivating your feelings." Chris nodded in agreement. One hand held Lantern's leash, the other gripped my hand tightly, fingers intertwined. Under Mom's satisfied gaze, Chris and I left the house. As soon as the door closed, I immediately tried to pull my hand away. It wouldn't budge. I looked at him, confused. He said seriously, "Auntie is definitely hiding in the house, peeking at us." I nodded, then held up our intertwined hands in front of him. Then why do we have to hold hands in the elevator too? Whether it was the slightly stuffy air in the elevator or something else, Chris's face flushed slightly. I muttered about it being too much trouble, but his grip on my hand grew tighter. I didn't argue with him anymore because the elevator had reached the first floor. Outside the building, I proactively pulled Chris's arm, leaning into him. The closer the better. It was best that Mom saw us clearly. After walking a short distance, certain that she could no longer see us, I immediately pulled my hand away, creating a distance between us. Chris's eyes momentarily held a hint of sadness, but very quickly returned to normal. Lantern was extremely excited to be outside. With no one else around, Chris and I walked in silence, only the sound of the dog barking. The atmosphere was so awkward that I wanted to proactively find something to say. Just then, someone called my name from behind us. I turned around. It was an old high school classmate, Ethan. Kai, is that really you?" I stared at his face for a long time but couldn't remember his name. Seeing my confusion, he introduced himself. "I'm Ethan," I remembered. Not only did I remember who he was, but I also remembered that he had once written me love letters. Ethan didn't notice my embarrassment, lost in nostalgia as he began to reminisce. Because I was well-mannered, I reluctantly listened, but he kept babbling on and on without stopping. Just as I was about to lose my patience and cut him off, a hand wrapped around my waist. "Lantern is eager to find his friends to play with now. We'll go on ahead, all right?" Ethan immediately became wary, looking at Chris. "You're Chris?" Chris glanced at him indifferently and calmly replied, "Hello, I'm Lantern's dad, and Kai's fiancé." "Fiancé?" I saw a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He'd promoted himself again. Ethan stood rooted to the spot, his eyes full of hope as he looked at me, waiting for me to deny it. I smiled politely but distantly. "Yes, he's my fiancé." As soon as I finished speaking, Chris's eyelashes trembled slightly and a complex glint flashed in his eyes. Ethan finally realized the situation. He exchanged a few polite words and then left. I immediately pulled Chris's hand off my waist. He paused slightly, then complained, Kai, why do you always use and then discard me?" I didn't. Lantern didn't understand the atmosphere between us and just kept pulling Chris forward. He bent down, picked Lantern up, and stroked his head. "Don't be in a hurry, your dad is settling accounts with your mom right now. You can't learn from your mom and just use and then discard people." "Chris," I snatched Lantern from his arms. "Don't you dare corrupt him." I hugged Lantern and walked quickly forward. Chris immediately followed. Patches of unmelted snow still lingered on the grass. He walked beside me, his tone as if speaking casually, yet it felt like he had thought about it a lot. Kai, I'm not that good at acting." In that moment, I finally had to admit that I couldn't beat him. Chris and I walked the dog back, no longer intense confrontation, but instead an indescribable atmosphere. Mom, seeing that I didn't even dare to look Chris directly in the eye, automatically assumed that we had just gone to rekindle our romance. Chris wiped Lantern's paws, then enthusiastically ran into the kitchen to help Dad cook. Mom moved closer, holding melon seeds and starting to shell them. "Chris is definitely your type, isn't he?" "He's so good, why aren't you making your relationship official soon?" Hearing this, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. "Wait, Mom, aren't you being a bit too intrusive? Where did you learn these lines?" "From the internet, of course. I even used your tone to post a question and see what netizens would say." Mom opened her phone and showed me the post. "I have a handsome, fit, rich boyfriend who's especially devoted to me and obedient, but I don't feel anything for him. What should I do?" The comments below were all kinds of fake misery, actually showing off. "Girl, if he's that good, just enjoy it quietly." "What to do? Break up with him and give me his info, I'll help you." I stiffly handed her phone back, awkwardly saying, "Mom, can you please stop interfering in my private life a little?" Mom pouted unhappily. "You're such a buzzkill." Even though I stayed up late practicing, I still couldn't beat my mother, a natural-born genius. Chris finished cooking a few dishes. Mom tasted them and praised them continuously. I thought she was just flattering him, but to my surprise, the taste was genuinely not bad. After 2 bites, Mom immediately opened her phone. I watched her with wide eyes as she updated her post, adding a line, "He cooks well too." My mom officially became the ultimate protector of my and Chris's love story. That evening, While Chris was showering, Lily video called me. Help me ask if Chris is still planning to come home. My parents are starting to suspect he's making excuses to avoid going home. She said this while leisurely playing Mahjong. He'll probably go home in a few days. I can't let him stay any longer, or my whole family will be brainwashed by him. Lily didn't seem too concerned about her brother, asking a few perfunctory questions, then turned the camera to her Mahjong table. Help me pick a tile. I immediately became completely engrossed, not noticing that Chris had finished showering. When he unexpectedly appeared in the video frame, both Lily and I froze. Chris, what are you doing in Kai Kai's room? This question immediately attracted the attention of everyone on the other side of the screen. In a flash, several faces appeared, crowding the screen. Chris smirked, then bowed his head and greeted them. Hello, Auntie and Uncle. I panicked, mechanically repeating, Hello, Auntie and Uncle. Good, good, good. It's good that you two are doing well. We won't disturb you anymore. With that, they immediately retreated. I clutched my phone, looking at the instigator of all this. Your parents, did they misunderstand something? Misunderstand what? Misunderstand that we're a couple. Well, that is * a misunderstanding, Chris said with a curved lip. Because we're engaged, that's what we are. This time, I kicked him out of the room again. Chris stayed at my house for a few days and finally had to leave. The day he departed, Mom stuffed him with a huge pile of things. He couldn't refuse and obediently accepted it all. As he was packing his luggage, Mom suddenly rushed into my room, excitedly shouting, Dog food, dog food. I immediately dropped what I was holding and ran over in a panic. Mom, did you hit your head? She grabbed my hand tightly, her face beaming. I was hit by the love between you and Chris. There's a picture of you in Chris's wallet. My heart sank to the bottom. No way, Mom, you must have seen wrong, right? You silly girl, I'm your mother. Can't I even recognize my own daughter? I opened my mouth to protest, but my mind was completely muddled. Just then, Chris knocked and entered the room. Mom, very understandingly, immediately left, leaving the space for us two. Chris stood facing me. My heart involuntarily beat faster. Are you done packing your luggage? He nodded, then suddenly moved closer. There's one last thing I haven't done. I forced myself to look up at him. What? He looked at me, his eyes filled with a deep, soulful vibration, to confirm my boyfriend's status. Although my mind was a bit chaotic, I easily understood the meaning of his words. Are you proposing to me? That's right, Chris admitted cheerfully. I like you, and I'm willing to repay you for a lifetime. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I held out my hand to him. Your wallet. He paused slightly, but still obediently placed his wallet in my hand. I took a deep breath and opened it. What caught my eye was my own ID photo. Everything immediately became clear. I only had 2 copies of this photo. One was in my photo album, and the other I had sent along with a letter to that pen pal years ago. I still remembered my heart fluttering back then. Even though I had never met him, I spent time writing a clumsy love letter and sent it with the photo, but I never received a reply. Time gradually faded the initial emotions. After growing up, whenever I thought back to it, I only felt lucky that no one knew about this black history of mine. But I never expected that the recipient of that letter was Chris, and he had actually kept it. Before I could even voice my questions, Chris proactively explained. That year, my family suddenly moved away and didn't have time to inform you. When I received this letter, it was already a year later. After that, I looked for you, but you were completely untraceable. I still have your letter. The sky was falling. Just thinking about that clumsy love letter from years ago still existing in the world made it hard for me to breathe. But Chris was completely unaware of the gravity of the situation, gently adding another stab to the wound. I've read that letter no less than a dozen times. I've even memorized it. I immediately shot up and covered his mouth. At this moment, I just wanted to disappear on the spot. Chris, if you still want to be with me, forget that letter immediately. Chris automatically ignored all other words, only grasping, be with me. He pulled my hand down and hugged me tightly. Forget it. Now all I remember is that I like you. He buried his face in the crook of my neck. I slowly wrapped my arms around him. So, you recognized me from the very beginning? Chris nodded smugly. Of course, I'm not the type of man to casually follow a stranger home. His tone clearly conveyed a sense of showing off. Not wanting to disappoint him, I tilted my head and lightly kissed the corner of his lips. As soon as he tasted the sweetness, he immediately demanded more. Do you want to come home with me? I hesitated a little. Isn't that a bit too fast? Thought for a few seconds, then nodded. It does seem a bit fast, but you just lost the chance to destroy that letter with your own hands. I had a feeling he would use that letter to control me for the rest of my life. Seeing me waver, he didn't forget to add fuel to the fire. There's only one chance, it won't wait for anyone. This provocation successfully irked me. I'm going, Chris smirked, took my hand, and pulled me towards the door. Then let's go tell our parents first. I looked at his retreating back, sighing at the wonder of fate. No matter how much this world spins, those who are destined will always meet again at some crossroads.